everyone, welcome to the Hindu Current Affairs for Beginners by Law Excellence. Before starting our today's session, first let us see answers for the questions from our previous video. The first question is, the Corruption Perception Index is published by which among the following? It is the Transparency International which publishes this index. The next question is, the terms SWAS, SAFAL and STAR recently seen in news is related to which among the following? These three are the green crackers that were produced by the CSIR scientists. Our first article is Secret Papers on Rafale Deal Stolen. This article comes under GS Paper 3 under the topic of Defense, and in our yesterday's video we have clearly detailed about this Rafale issue. We have seen in brief what is the background of this Rafale controversy, and now in this article it is saying that the government has told the Supreme Court that the documents related to this Rafale aircraft deal were stolen from the Defense Ministry, and the government has threatened the Hindu newspaper with Official Secrets Act for publishing the articles related to this Rafale aircraft deal. According to this act, no work procedure of government should be leaked to the public, and if anybody reveals the government secrets, they'll be punished under this act. And from the prelims point of view, what is important for us is what are the technical features, what are the technicalities of this Rafale aircraft. In our yesterday's video, I have clearly told about all the technical details about this Rafale aircraft and also the controversy about this Rafale deal. Please refer to that video. The next article is Ministry plugs loophole that allowed plastic waste import. This article comes under GS Paper 3 under the topic of Environment. From this article, now we are going to see about two things. What are these special economic zones and what are these new amendments to this Hazardous and other waste management and transboundary movement rules of 2019. And here first let us see some of the highlights of this article. Here we can clearly see that India is the 10th largest importer of plastic scrap after China, Hong Kong and all these countries. And India produces nearly 26,000 tons of plastic every day, and out of the 26,000, nearly 15,500 tons is only being collected. And the processing of the collected plastic waste annual growth rate is 10% between these 2010 and 2015. So here we can see there is huge consumption of plastic. It is around 20 million tons. It will be around 20 million tons by 2020. These statistics will be useful while writing an answer about this solid waste management in the mains. Now, let us see what are these special economic zones. A special economic zone. To say simply, a special economic zone is an area in which the business and trade laws were different from the rest of the country. Here in the special economic zone, this business and trade laws were totally different with that of rest of the country. These special economic zones are located within a country's national borders, and their aim is to increase trade, increase investment and to create employment opportunities with effective administration, and to encourage businesses to set up in this special economic zone. Many financial policies were introduced by the government, and these policies are regarding investment, taxation, trading, by providing quotas, customs and labor regulations. All these are the financial policies that were brought in by the government in order to boost or to encourage the new businesses to be set up in this special economic zone. These special economic zones, as we said, that we are going to encourage the businesses by providing these financial policies in favor of them. So what kind of businesses were allowed in these special economic zones? Manufacturing, trading and service activities. All these were allowed. A single window approval will be provided by the Board of Approval. Once the application is recommended by the state or union territory, that will be approved by this Board of Approval to set up a special economic zone. If we see some of the incentives for the units in this special economic zone, see 100% of income tax exemption on export income for the special economic zones under section 10A of 10AA of Income Tax Act for the first 5 years, and 50% income tax exemption on export income for next 5 years, and as per this Income Tax Act, these units were exempted from minimum alternate tax. These are some of the issues about this special economic zones. Now, let us see about this amendment to the Hazardous and Other Ways Management and Transboundary Movement Rules of 2016. What is this new amendment? The new amendment is to include prohibition on the import of solid plastic waste even in the special economic zones and by export oriented units. Just now we have seen that for special economic zone, the laws, business and trading laws were totally different. They were having some special benefits in order to increase our exports and make our products, our domestic products, more competitive globally, and to create many employment opportunities which will ultimately lead to the economic growth. So now here they are saying that there has to be prohibition on the import of solid plastic waste even in these special economic zones and in these export oriented units. Along with this amendment, there were some other provisions also. One is this amendment has exempted the exporters of silk waste from requiring permission. They need not take permission from the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. They were exempted from taking the permission. Who are they? It is the silk waste exporters. And the electrical and electronic assemblies and components that were manufactured in the country and exported from India, if they were found defective, they has to be imported back into the country within a year of export without obtaining any permission from the ministry. And the next change is the industries who were all exempted from taking the authorization under this Water Pollution Act, Air Pollution Act were now even exempted from taking authorization under this Hazardous and Other Ways rules of 2016 also. But provided that the hazardous and other waste which were generated by these industries should be handed over to the authorized actual users, waste collectors, for disposing these wastes. Now, let us see about this Hazardous and Other Waste rules of 2016. These rules were brought in order to ensure resource recovery and disposal of hazardous waste in an environmentally sound manner. That means without impacting or damaging the environment. And this is the first time the rules have included a provision to separate, and that is to distinguish between the hazardous waste and other waste. Here the other waste comprise waste tires, paper waste, metal scrap, used electronic items which can be recycled and reused. These are all comes under these other waste. The next article is ISRO French agency to set up maritime surveillance system. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of science and technology, and the subtopic here is awareness in the fields of IT, space, computers, etc. From the prelims point of view, what is important from this article is what is this OceanSat-3 Argos mission? And from the mains point of view, all missions of ISRO are important from the examination point of view. This article is all about ISRO and its French counterpart, that is CNES. They have signed an agreement to set up a joint maritime surveillance system in the country, and these two nations will explore by putting up a constellation of low Earth orbiting satellites. Now let us see about this OceanSat-3 Argos mission. This surveillance system, maritime surveillance system, will be elevated with the launch of this OceanSat-3 Argos mission in 2030 along with Joint Infrared Earth Observation Satellite. What these will do is they will identify and track the movements of ships across the world, and in particular the ships that were moving in the Indian Ocean where the France has its Reunion Islands. This is the region. This is important for us. Where is the location of these Reunion Islands? These are the Reunion Islands of France. So what both these countries will do is they will share data from their present space systems and they will develop new algorithms to analyze the data. They will work together for designing and developing joint products and techniques, including the ones that involves automatic identification system in order to monitor and protect the assets in the land and sea together. That's why it is a joint maritime surveillance system. They will work together to build this system from their present space systems. The next article is coming soon, the Indian Museum of Natural History. This article comes under GS paper 1 under the topic of history. See, here you can see an excavated ichthyosaur fossil was found near Lodhai village in Kutch district of Gujarat. And we are now going to see about this Earth Museum. Government is going to set up Indian Museum of Earth Time to showcase India's natural heritage, including the fossils like these that were excavated, ichthyosaur fossil like these, and geological features. And this will be the first of its kind museum in the country, and it will help in better conserving India's prehistoric heritage. And it is one of the key projects, one of the 4 key projects that were identified by the Prime Minister's Advisory Council on Science, Technology and Innovation. Now, let us see about this Earth Museum. This museum will house all India's geological and paleontological wealth in one location, and it will make people aware of India's prehistoric wealth. This will be set up as a public-private partnership, and it will be located somewhere in the National Capital Territory, Delhi, in Noida or Gurugram. And this museum is modeled on lines with American Museum of Natural History, which is in United States. So it will serve as a single site that is accessible to public as well as researchers who wants to investigate rare and important findings. The next article is Wiggle Space. This article comes under GS paper 3 under the topic of economy. Before saying into these topics, first let us see what are these liquid funds. Liquid fund is a category of mutual fund which will invest primarily in the money market instruments. What are the money market instruments? Like certificates of deposits, treasury bills, commercial papers and term deposits. Whereas mutual fund is an investment vehicle made up of a pool of money that is collected from the public investors, and this pooled money will be used to buy other securities by professional money managers. This will give the small or these individual investors access to the professionally managed portfolios of equities, bonds and other securities. So what are the benefits of these liquid funds? These liquid funds were invested in securities which were having a maturity of 91 days. All these treasury bills, they were having a maturity of up to 91 days. And these liquid funds were having lowest interest rate risk among the debt funds, because here they are investing in fixed income securities with short maturity. And these liquid funds, they don't have a lock-in period. Lock-in period is the period during which a loan cannot be paid off earlier than the scheduled date. So the assets invested here are not tied up for a long time, and the withdrawals from the liquid funds will be processed within 24 hours on business days. Now, what is this article is all about? The Securities Exchange Board of India has proposed new rules related to these liquid funds in its recent board meeting. What are those new rules? SEBI has said to change the valuation methodology to mark-to-market based model instead of this amortization method to value these debt securities. How will we know these securities value? It has to be known through a methodology. Previously, they followed this amortization method. Amortization means an accounting term. That means this process will allocate the cost of these intangible assets over a period of time. See, intangible assets are the ones which are not physical and which cannot be touched, like some copyrights, trademarks, software, agreements, all these are intangible. So, amortization is the decrease in the value of these intangible assets. This is a process of paying off one's debts through regular payments. For example, if insurance premium is 12,000 rupees annually, how we will do is we will be paying 1,000 rupees per month. This is what is called amortization. We are going to pay off our debts through regular payments. Now SEBI is asking to shift to this method of mark-to-market methodology to value these assets, because this method will reflect the current market levels of these debt securities. This method will show how much a company will receive if this particular asset is sold today. So that it is called fair value accounting or market value accounting. So as per this new rule, all the debt papers who are having a maturity of 30 days or more than 30 days, previously the limit is 60 days. Now they have reduced it. All the debt papers who are having a maturity of 30 days or more, they should be marked to this market methodology as per this new rules of SEBI. The next article is laying down the do's and don'ts of elections. This entire article is talking about how the model code of conduct is evolved and what is this model code of conduct. This is nothing but the rules that were laid down by the Election Commission of India with an agreement with the political parties. And this, what is important here is, see this, it is not statutory. Here, what does this model code of conduct says is, it will only tell what has to be done and what shouldn't be done during these elections. The political parties, candidates and the polling agents, they should abide by these norms during their election campaigns in order to make sure that there will be a free and fair elections. And here it was given in detail when it was introduced and when it is enforced. What is important here for us is what are the key malpractices. Any activity, if it is going to exaggerate or aggravate the existing differences by creating mutual hatred. Yesterday we saw about these hate crimes, which is invoking violence based on caste, community, religion, language, all this. That will be considered as a corrupt practice under the Representation of People's Act. And even making an appeal to caste or communal feelings, using caste or community to garner votes, is also considered as an offence under this act. And even using the religious places for campaigning. Bribing the voters is a corrupt practice and it is an electoral offence under this Representation of People's Act and even under the section 171B of Indian Penal Code. Here some other activities were also given. Impersonating a person, that means bringing in the proxies instead of another person and making them vote, is also punishable offence. And distributing liquor on the election day and during the 48 hours preceding it is also an electoral offence. Even holding public meetings during this 48 period hour is also an election offence. So what does the Election Commission do in order to curtail all these offences? Here in this article you can see about the introduction of CVisl app. What is this CVisel app? The Election Commission has launched this CVisel mobile application for the citizens in order to report to the Election Commission if there is any violation of these model code of conduct during the elections, with an aim to empower people across the country to share the evidence of malpractice by the political parties, their candidates, activists directly with the Election Commission of India. And here the identity of the complainant will be kept confidential, and it will be provided with a unique ID to track and receive the follow-up updates on the mobile. And this app also has inbuilt features to prevent its misuse, and it will be active only in the states where the elections have been announced, not all over the country. And the other provision here is this app facilitates to share geotagged photographic and video evidences without disclosing the identity of the sender. Here the uploaded information will be transmitted to the control room, and from there to the field units or flying squads who are mapped on this GIS for further action. The next article is Draft E-Commerce Policy. More time sought for comments. This article comes under GS Paper 3 under the topic of Economy. A task force of Commerce Ministry has submitted its recommendations on a draft national e-commerce policy, and they have sought some suggestions or comments from online trading sectors who are asking for some more time. Now let us see some of the background that why we need an e-commerce policy. First of all, we know that India's e-commerce sector is around $25 billion, and it is expected to grow to $200 billion within next 10 years. That means we need a better policy response and coordination among various sectors of the government. And this growth is attributed to the cheaper smartphones and data tariffs along with enhanced, that is increased connectivity. This growth can result in employment opportunities, that is job creation and productivity improvement, and increase the consumer presence on online platforms. So for these reasons, India has to fully benefit from these opportunities. It is important for the policymakers to have a clearly laid down rules for e-commerce in the country. The present status is recently India has brought in some new e-commerce rules, that is regarding the FDI. The government will not allow FDI, foreign direct investment, in these e-commerce companies, but FPI, foreign portfolio investment, is allowed here. And the online retailers with the foreign investments, they can only operate here as a marketplace model. That means but it shouldn't function as an inventory based model. I'll explain you what are these two. Marketplace model, what they can do is they can let the sellers list their products on their platform. Here what will happen is, for example, let us say Amazon or Flipkart, they can only act as a market where the sellers, they can bring in their goods and they can use this market to showcase their products, which the buyers, if interested, they can buy these products. So here Amazon is only acting as a market for the buyers to come and sell their products. This is what allowed in the country. The online retailers with foreign investments, they can only operate in this model. Whereas inventory based model means the Amazon itself will have an inventory of goods. It will sell its own goods in its platform. And it will also allow the outside sellers to come and showcase their products here. But what will happen here is, it wants to boost its own inventory goods. So what it will do is, it will reduce the prices, which will affect the other sellers, and which will increase the competition, and these goods will lose their worth in the market. And the other rule here is, the e-commerce entity, for example, again Amazon, this cannot allow more than 25% of the sales transacted on its marketplace from one vendor or other group companies. See, for example, let us say this Amazon is having an inventory and there is a vendor. He purchased the goods from this Amazon's inventory and he produced a different product. Using this, he added some value to this good input and produced some product. Now, if he had purchased more than 25% of the goods from Amazon's inventory and he produced his products, then that person is not allowed to sell his products in the Amazon platform. And also, we have been seeing about this Amazon Pantry, Amazon Kindle, all these will fall under this category. So now these restrictions on this inventory based model, the e-commerce companies were not even able to offer their in-house brands exclusively, because previously we used to find some kind of phones only in Amazon and some mobiles only in Flipkart. They were available only there. So this exclusivity has been removed now. And the other things were like, we know that we have been cheated. Sometimes we have been hearing these cases that there is no quality check. And when we have ordered for some mobile phone, we have seen the cases where bricks and soaps were delivered at the same weight of this mobile phone, which indicates that there is an inherent flaw in the marketplace model where the platforms, they do not have full control over the entire supply chain, starting from the production till delivery. They don't have full control over the supply chain. So this is the reason why we need a proper laid down rules for this e-commerce sector. And what are the recommendations that were brought in by this task force? This task force has recommended that FDI can be allowed in inventory-based e-commerce companies up to 49%, but providing a condition that the e-commerce retailer, they should sell 100% made in India products, so that it will allow the e-commerce firms to offer their own brands as long as they are made in India. This thing is to prevent them from directly or indirectly influencing the prices of the goods and services. And now onwards, according to the recommendations of this task force, the marketplaces will not be able to offer deep discounts through their in-house companies that were listed as sellers. And the bulk purchase of branded goods by the related party sellers, which lead to price distortion, has to be prohibited. And the task force has recommended to set up a central consumer protection authority in order to help the consumers and to act as a nodal agency for the intra-government coordination and provide a platform for the e-commerce operators regarding the complaints of these fraudulent activities. And it has also recommended about this concept of data localization. That means among its recommendations, there is an obligation on these e-commerce firms to store the consumer data within India, as per this data localization policy of India. And in case of payments, we know that, right, till now most of the payments for online purchases were made through cash on delivery option. And to make online payments safer, this task force has recommended to create a fraud intelligence mechanism, and this will use artificial intelligence based authentication systems for early detection of these frauds. These were some of the recommendations that were made by this task force. The next article is IRDAI National Health Authority form joint working group on Ayushman Bharat. This article comes under GS paper 2 under the topic of governance. The IRDAI and the NHA, they have formed a working group on this Ayushman Bharat Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. So what these people will do is, within 6 months, this working group is going to submit a report on how to detect and deter the fraud through a common repository and capacity building. Now let's see today's prelims questions. The first question is regarding this SEBI's new rules on these mutual funds. And the next question is, which among the following are the money market instruments? Try to answer these questions, and tomorrow we'll see explanation for these questions. Thank you.